Hey everyone, we're we're live. Okay, so
Hey.
we want to welcome you, and I'm Martin,
I'm Shelly.
and we are what?
What?
What do you keep pointing at?
Your name is on there and mine isn't.
Well, I'm sorry. She's worried about this. Okay, so if you're out there, go ahead and post a comment with your name or your handle or whatever it is that you go by, so that we know that you're there. And this was just to give you a little bit of an idea of what we're doing here tonight. During the last week's live stream, we had a question of someone that was really wanting to learn something about solar and get our perspective on our solar plant systems that we've got here at our place. And so I got a hold of my son-in-law, Mike, who kind of guides me in all of this stuff. And said, would you be willing to go on live with us next week, which is going to be tomorrow night, and just talk about solar? There's a Crazy Life Homestead. Hey, welcome aboard. And and he agreed. He said, yeah, he'd be happy to do that. So I've got them on standby. I've got him and our daughter Adrian on standby, and we're going to bring them in just a minute. So, but to start with, the problem was that I had to learn how to do this split screen live stream thing that just I had no idea where to start. So I got, hey, David Lilly.
Hi, David Lilly.
And so I went and did some quick research. We had actually had a suggestion last week on what to try. So I went and looked at several things, found the one that I liked, seemed to be the simplest. And we went ahead and got it hooked up and got it going and tested it a couple of times, and it worked. So I asked them if they would come on tonight, and we'll just talk about some off-grid kind of stuff. And because they're the ones with the Backwoods bug out that you see sometimes on our channel. They've got a lot of it on their channel, and along with some other stuff. So I'm going to go ahead and bring them in right now. This is Mike and Adrian. Okay, I got to find it. Add to the stage. There they are.
There they are.
Okay, there's Adrian. Okay, and so they're the owners of the Backwoods bug out that you see on our channel occasionally, and they're going to talk about some of the off-grid stuff. And when we originally, I was thinking about just doing the Backwoods bug out property, because that is so cool. It's got so much. It is 100%. I mean 100% off-grid in every respect, and so we wanted to talk about that. But then I got to realizing that they also have this boat down in Florida. And, once you unplug from the dock and head out to sea, that's off grid too. And there's some really cool features in there, like a water maker, which is, I guess, what is it, a desalinization plant or something like that you've got on board there?
It's a desalinizer, but it's run by reverse osmosis.
Oh, okay.
So it pulls in salt water, goes through multiple filters.
Yeah.
Before it goes through the membrane filter. And I think it's for every 100 gallons of water you put through it, you get like 15 gallons out of it.
Yeah.
So I think I timed it one day. It was like for 8 hours, you make 75 gallons.
All right. Yeah.
So it's got to run a long time. And it is a pretty big one.
Yeah.
And a lot of times we just leave it running like throughout the day.
Yeah.
Leave it run.
Yeah. So here we are going to talk off-grid stuff. Okay. And our cabin down here that you see at the Campfire Trail channel we are about, oh, there's Robin. Hey,
Hi,
Robin. Think I found the live, maybe. Yeah, you're there. That's my sister. So I got family all over the place here.
Yeah.
So yeah, you're there.
Hey, Robin.
So we are. Mike gives me a bad time sometimes. He goes, because you aren't off grid 100%. So, well, yeah, I know. And especially when my system goes down. And then he says, you ain't off grid at all. And there are a couple of times when I wasn't. Yeah. But our system here is capable of covering about 80% of our electrical needs anyway. And when we have lost power, I think last week we were saying that we lost power, I think 7 times since we've been down here. And KJ, hey, you're back. Hey, glad to have you back. But we can run 100% off grid electrically when that happens. And we've proven that it works that way. So it's good that way. So so as I introduce you guys' projects down. Oh, by the way, Adrian,
Mm-hmm.
show them that thing that you got behind. They were up here about a month ago
Oh, yeah.
during deer season,
Yeah.
and they hauled the deer hides back with them. Show them what you did with them.
Look, we did this ourselves.
Is that cool?
And it.
They turned out good. We tanned it. They're nice and soft. See how soft they are? Mm.
I gotta
like a
tell you,
blanket.
I really did all the work.
Oh, bro.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
What do you mean? I did it.
I did all the
All
work.
right,
Oh, hi, Mandy. She's
Hey, Mandy.
on.
that one.
Yep.
So yeah,
So
them. We got we got another one that's done and another one that I'm working on still.
all right. So if you need to know how to tan deer hides, get on their channel and take. Oh, and by the way, I put a link to their YouTube channel down in the description below here. So, do you have a video on the tanning? Do you have a video on the tanning?
No, but no, I don't.
Adrian's been slipping up on these videos.
I know
so.
I have.
I don't know what's the matter with you. So,
I need more videos.
okay. She said it was pretty easy, but maybe you can put a description of your product or something like that on there, so they'll at least know where to go.
Oh,
Yeah.
someone says crazy.
And I'm sure this isn't going to be the last deer
There's a
we ever have either. So
comment says Crazy Life Homestead says, "Do you have a video on tanning?" No, but we did figure out a way to
we watched a lot of videos on tanning.
to deflesh a deer with the pressure cleaner, and I did make a video of that, and it's on our YouTube channel.
Oh yeah,
Just a quick little video.
Yeah, and their channel is in the description down below, but their channel is Treasured Times Cruising. And so you wonder, well, what does cruising have to do with off grid? But that was their boat channel, and they've just added this other thing. So what happened was one time when you guys were up here visiting, probably was it 2 years? 2 years ago.
Good.
Chinchillas are soft.
Yeah, we were driving around. I was driving with Mike. We were coming back from the store to get some parts or something, and he started mentioning about properties for sale down here, and I never had any idea that they had any idea of moving up here, and they're not moving up here, but they had started a search for some property, some very remote property about 2 years ago, and ended up finding some up here a ways away from us, and it's backed up real close to one of the national forests here. And so they've got some property, and it's really close to about 250,000 acres of Mark Twain National Forest. Channel link does not work. Well,
Crazy Life Homestead.
Okay. Well, you might have to do a search. I'll have to look at that and see why the link doesn't work. But I'll have to do that after the video here. But yeah, if you look up Treasured Times Cruising. In fact, let me type it in so you can see what it is. Oop,
Yep.
That's wrong. Cruising. Yeah, it'd help if I spelled it all right.
I wonder if I could just share the link here. Oh yeah, he got.
You might be able to give that a try. Okay, that's just the name of the channel. That's not a link, but so if you look at that, you'll be able to find it. Oh, they found it.
Oh, okay, he found it.
So anyway, they ended up buying a piece of land up here, sight unseen. Tell them how that worked out, Mike. I got this message saying, "Can you drive out there and make sure it's not a swamp?"
I found a piece of property on MLS. It was just some pictures, and the price seemed pretty fair. And I figured, well, I'd like to negotiate. And they came back and they seemed to like the price. So I had to make a move pretty quick. And yeah, that's how it went down in 10 minutes. It was a done deal. No pet cemeteries, and we were the owners of the bug out property.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and so tell them what your vision was for that. I'm still trying to pull that out of him, but tell them what your idea was for purchasing a place that remote and what you wanted to build there.
Well, it was mainly just a place to come up and have our own place to stay when we came up there, and we just ended up having a lot of fun doing it. So, been kind of expanding what we're doing there, and being on the water, we spend a lot of time on the water away from the dock, so that's pretty much off grid. You don't get any more off grid than that, and there's no going to the store when you're 100 miles away from somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So we're kind of used to that, and I had a thought about building, a small house out of shipping containers, and just had a lot of fun doing it.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
I wasn't as serious about it as once we got started. I really getting, serious into the situation, but we were just kind of dabbling in the beginning. But now we've made a complete plant out there, and
And we sort of wing the whole thing.
I didn't wing anything.
Well,
Right.
I
I
had a.
know that
I mean, he did have
ram
a
it on
he
home.
did have a plan, but it was like, we never did anything like this, so we didn't know what kind of things we were going to run
I
into.
had it all planned out. We had everything done in a week.
We did. By the
first trip.
time 7 days was up, we had a 250-foot driveway, a huge landing, 2 shipping containers on it, a well dug, and that's it.
And every time before we come up and make the trip up, I roll that around in my head for months, so I know exactly what we're going to do before we get there.
Mm-hmm.
And then, of course, there's other projects that kind of pop up in between too, but I have the main focus, goal.
I like that you figure out what you wanted to do and boom, you do it. But I know some of the people that were around that area, they didn't even know that piece of land was for sale. You snatched that thing up just like that. And
It only came up it only been on the market for like a week.
yeah. It just boom, it's gone.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And so, when you think of off grid, I'm not sure. There's several reasons, I guess, why someone would want to try to go off grid with their property. One would be as if you just simply don't have any other choice, or don't have any other options if power isn't available or anything like that. One might be that you want to just not pay electrical bill, utility company,
Mm-hmm.
and that is that a good reason? Well, it's nice if you can get everything set up that way, but it's not cheap setting it all up. I mean, so if that's a reason, I don't know how good of a reason that is. We mainly wanted it down here so that whatever happened with an electrical service that we'd have, we would know that we would have electricity down here. And so we set it up just mainly as a, someday to be a primary source of electricity, which mostly it is now. But we wanted to make sure that it was certainly a backup system that we would have too. So with you guys, there's actually electricity not too far away from there, but but you just wanted to be off grid entirely, so you didn't have to mess with any of that, right?
Yeah, we didn't want to be tied to anybody or, have to rely on the external power or somebody else supplying us water. We wanted to be 100% self-sufficient. And like I said, living on the boat, that's just how we become self-sufficient. I mean, the first second we pull away from the dock, we have to be self-sufficient. So
Yeah,
we just wanted to be the same way. No electric bill, no cable bill, no, it's not cheap by any means, but you're making a trade-off. A solar plant, a cheap solar plant, if you really do it, is 10 grand.
Mm-hmm.
That's not cheap.
No.
If you're paying $100 electric bill, what's the recoup on that? Like
a few years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if you think you're going to save money, no, but you're not under the thumb of somebody else either. So
yeah. Now, so down at your place, you have got. I'm trying to think of the order that we worked on when you guys first came up here and started working on that. To start with, I mean, the first thing we did was we graded a road into the property there, and we operated with I guess a generator to start with, wasn't that?
Yeah,
was the very first thing. And that's similar to what we did down here at our place. Was we just started with a generator because that was the quickest, cheapest, easiest way to get power on the property, was just fire up a generator. And that went for a while. We cut the road in, and what about
3 days.
was it 3 days? How soon did they start delivering those containers?
The fourth day.
They delivered one on the fourth day and then one on the fifth day. Was that what it was again?
Yep.
So once the containers was down there, I'm just trying to remember, and you were here how many weeks that first time? 3 weeks, 4 weeks?
3 weeks.
Yeah,
3
3.
weeks. And by the time you left, I know you had, they drilled the well later that week then too, didn't they?
They did.
They did the well before the containers came.
It was actually
That's
the day.
right. It was the day the first one was.
Container came.
Yeah, they were drilling the well there. So by the time the containers was there, you had a functioning well, but just really nothing to power it.
Right.
Wasn't that right? And so the power came from. Did you have? And you brought a bunch of batteries up that time.
We brought some batteries. We had to buy some solar panels because by the time we left, we had, I think, 8 solar panels set up, and was it 3 or 4 strings of batteries or something?
Yeah, we had 4 strings of batteries, but they were not new batteries. They were batteries that we reclaimed from somewhere. So they weren't so good, but they worked fine.
Yeah.
It was good for testing.
I mean, it was good for the first.
And we really weren't
trip.
running anything. I think we had like a couple security cameras and Wi-Fi that was running while we were gone, but that was it.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And
we weren't powering anything, so we didn't need a lot of power.
And you did get the well pump set up on the solar system that first trip up here.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah, and we did a video on that because a lot of people, I see the questions on Facebook a lot of times about, how do you run a deep well with solar, and to me it would have been just hook up a regular system and then just, as long as it had 220, just plug your well into it. And Mike said, no, it's more complicated than that. And so he explained it, and I mean, do a real brief explanation of why a well pump is a problem. When you're doing kind of off grid and running everything off of a battery bank.
Yeah, when you have a well, most of these wells, because they're deep wells, if it was a shallow well, it may not be a problem. But a deep well on startup may pull 20 or 30 amps. Most people's inverters can't handle that load. So I came up with an easy way to do it. Use an inverter, a 3-phase inverter, and you connect it. It's basically, you have 3 components. You have your main inverter, which is from the solar giving you power, the 220 volt power. And then we take that power and we input it into this micro inverter. And then that will power the well pump. All that does, it acts like a soft start for the pump. But you have to buy a 3-phase pump in order to do that. Yeah,
so it converts the power coming out of your inverter to a 3-phase instead of a single phase. And then you have to have a 3-phase pump in your well. And we've got a video on our channel, on the Campfire Trail channel, about how to run a deep well pump. And that one where he explains it better, and you can actually see it visually on the video there, how that operates, and it works good. So after the water was connected up and you had electricity there, I guess those are the only 2 real things that you've got. Oh, there was still, you had to deal with a septic system.
Oh yeah, they had to dig that out.
We did that on the second trip.
The second trip, yeah. And trying to think of what else there is out there.
Well, that was the number one thing, the septic, because prior to that, for 5 weeks, we were using the toilet in the woods. And it's real nerve-wracking. You do your business in the woods and looking over your shoulder and make sure you're not going to get attacked by a bear at the same time. So you don't realize how much you appreciate indoor plumbing at that point.
Yeah.
So the small luxuries of life that you find,
Oh my.
Yeah. So it looks like there's a little more than a dozen people on. Is there any questions out there that you'd like to ask about, how they operate out there at the Backwoods bug out? And we're just going to keep talking here, but if you have anything, we're monitoring the comments there and we'll try to address them as they come up. So how does that relate to the boat? I mean, I know one thing that Shelly and I went down there and spent a week or 10 days or something like that with them on the boat traveling around the Keys down there. And during that time, we had a breakdown, and we were, how far would you say we were away from civilization?
What was this breakdown?
I think that was the first trip.
Oh, that was the first time you guys came down.
Well, no, we had a breakdown then, but we had a breakdown the second time too, where I got sprayed in the face with a bunch of water.
Oh,
yeah,
yeah. Well, it wasn't really a breakdown.
No, we
It
were
was,
just sinking.
Yeah,
Whoa,
there was
No,
just don't
sinking,
worry
that's-
about it.
no,
You're
no
just
big deal,
sinking.
we're sinking.
We were just sinking. That's
The
all.
first-
Yeah.
first-
Yay.
the first night when we got to our destination.
Always an
We've got-
adventure.
We've got it. Yeah, always an adventure. We've got a routine that we follow where we, check the bilges, check the engines every so often, temperature, there's a whole list of things that we checked like while we're underway and then when we get to our destination. And when he checked the middle bilge, noticed it had quite a bit of water in there.
Quite a bit.
And
The light was underwater.
But the thing was, it wasn't quite high enough to hit the high water bilge alarm. It was kind of like halfway in between. So if the water would have kept filling up, it would have eventually tripped that, and we would have known there was a problem.
Well, the reason I knew to look down there was I kept seeing the light come on. There's a light that comes on the dash every time the bilge pump kicks in.
Mhm.
And it does come on every now and then. It's not uncommon.
But it's just the regular bilge.
But
Yeah.
I saw it coming on pretty frequently. So I figured I better take a look around. And that's when I pulled the thing up and that pump started up and was like, pew.
And it's an AC pump, so it's not constantly running. As the air conditioner kicks on or goes off, the pump stops. So if we would have looked in there at the wrong time, we wouldn't have known that there was a problem. But the air conditioner happened to pump to kick on while he was in there, and it just kind of sprayed him up in the
And
face.
just the FYI, that temporary repair that we did,
Yeah.
they never fixed that.
You never did?
No,
It's still running.
it's still
fine.
running like that. It's fine.
You're still functioning with a temporary
Yeah.
fix.
By the way, that's Captain Adrian,
Mhm.
and that's
Master Mechanic
Mike.
Master
I wear a
mechanic.
bunch of different hats around
Yeah,
here.
he does.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what I learned there on that trip was that you can't just run into the hardware store.
Oh
No.
no.
So you've got to have at least two of everything.
Mhm.
Yeah.
You know?
Was it the trip before that a water pump went out and we had to
No.
end up changing a water pump, or was that
That
Oh,
was the
yeah.
first one.
No, that was the bait well pump went out.
Oh.
Yeah. We lost the bait well pump, but I had a spare. I just bought a spare one.
Oh, that's right. Okay.
Oh, but that was easy to
Actually,
fix.
That's
Yeah.
a good thing to bring up if you're way out there off grid. Have extra parts.
You
Mhm.
have to have extra everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When I buy stuff, I buy two. That's
Yeah.
like that mini split that I brought when I came up. I brought two of them.
Yeah.
I bought the other one just for spare parts because.
And I talked him into selling it to us.
Yeah. Thank you, Mike.
Yeah. So I'm not really seeing any questions. So I guess
No,
we'll just keep
going.
yakking about our life, I guess. So here at our place, what we've got is, a lot of people wonder about our system that we've got here with our solar. And when we started building the cabin down here, we started with a generator. That's the only thing that we had for power down here. And about the time you guys were up here helping us get the roof on it, I believe the power company was bringing in a power line because I wanted to power. I wanted a regular grid power here because of some of the tools that we were running were real big. And I still am trying to learn how to, function with the solar equipment. And they had sent us, Mike and Adrian had sent us a small system. I think it was like a 1,000 or maybe it's a 2,000 watt inverter and a little charge controller and a little roll up solar panel to experiment with a little bit. And so we kind of got to learn how to do it a little bit. And that, honestly, that Lily just got home from work. Okay. And what happened was we kind of learned how solar works by playing with that little system. And I priced out what that was going to cost if you had to go out and buy all of that. And it was less, it really was less than I think it was less than $500 for all of it.
Mm-hmm.
And but it wasn't very big. I mean, honestly, you could not run a lot off of it, but it was big enough that we could play with it. And Caleb's there.
Hmm.
Oh yeah, he's trying to cause problems.
Oh, Jay.
All right, we're gonna banish you off the list.
I think
Okay,
I took Osama bin Laden.
But when but that was enough for us to play with, and once we upgraded to a bigger system down here, then we were able to we boxed up that little system, and it's still here. And we've thought about hooking it all up by the container in the garden, so
Yeah, we
could
don't
run
have
some
any lights up in there yet.
some lights in the container, and some water pumps around the garden and things like that.
Yeah.
So we'll probably still end up using that system. It's just since we've upgraded to a larger one down here, we haven't had to mess around with that smaller one. So it's just in storage right now.
Yeah.
I'm working on building another one right now.
What's that?
I bought 2 of those Chinese inverters, and I'm going to work on building a backup system.
Are you?
Hmm.
Okay.
Yeah,
And
the ones that he got are kind of cool because I guess you can link them together
You can link them
to
together.
make it a bigger system, like go as big as you want.
They come like 5 kilowatts each. And if you link 2 together, that makes 10. If you put 3, that makes 15 kilowatts. And I think you can go all the way up to like 15 units. And if you triple them, you can make them 3-phase.
Mm-hmm.
So,
And the cool thing about that is and here's an issue that we ran into with our inverter. We had an issue with our inverter while we were up this last trip, and we ended up having to replace it. But with these smaller ones that you can link together, if one goes bad, you only lose that 5 kilowatt.
yeah, you can lose one and still be running.
Mm-hmm.
oh,
So,
really? Okay.
You'll lose 5 kilowatts, but you won't lose the whole system.
Mm-hmm.
All
so
right.
let me ask you.
I think they were only like $700 a piece. But they
So
could be.
your situation where you are at, say a regular, as big as your place is, how many kilowatts do you really need to run your place?
Well, we're using 12 kilowatts, but honestly, we don't really use hardly any power. The only power that we use when we're there is at night. We have an electric water heater, and I had to turn that on. And I actually turned it on at the circuit breaker and only run it for 30 minutes.
Mhm.
We know that if I turn it on and I let it run for 30 minutes, and one of us takes a shower or a bath or whatever, and then I let it run for another 30 minutes, and beyond that, we'll get 2 showers out of the bank before I have to worry about the bank getting too low.
Yeah.
But that water heaters pull a lot of electricity. I looked at it. That water heater pulls 5 kilowatts by itself
Wow.
when it's running. So that's the biggest load we have. And other than that, it's just toaster oven and cooking. But that's all short term. So it uses a lot of energy initially when you're using it, but you're only running for 15, 20 minutes, half an hour, and then you shut it off.
And the water heater, we actually by accident left it running one night, but once it was hot, I think it only kicked on like once overnight to reheat the water or to, keep it at that temperature. But it wasn't on for that long. It was like maybe 15 minutes, but that 15 minutes, it dropped our batteries by like, how much do you think it was?
Yeah, it took our batteries down to like, we went from like 90% to 58%.
Wow.
Yeah.
So I got another question for you. With your washer and dryer, how much does that pull?
Now the washer and dryer is pretty interesting. That is a super high efficiency washer and dryer. It was crazy expensive, but it doesn't consume hardly anything. It's a heat pump. There's no electric elements inside to dry the clothes with. But it takes like 4 hours to do a load of laundry. But that's start to finish. It's an all-in-one machine. And if you do it during the day when the sun's out, it doesn't diminish the battery bank at all.
Oh.
It'll run strictly on solar.
Yeah, and if we're not running anything else, the panels will still charge the batteries while the washer dryer is running. So
Robin
it's pretty
says
cool.
asking if it's an endless water heater. No,
Yeah,
it's not
Oh
endless.
no.
Yeah, it ends when the batteries go dead. Yeah, that's when it's over. When
But
I'm sitting in there and the lights go off, it ended.
yep,
The joy of being off grid, right?
Because that's what
Yeah.
happens when your batteries run out.
and that
It's
has
over.
happened to us a couple times where we get up and the power's off because
Yeah.
we didn't make sure it was charged enough before we went to bed. I mean, we like this last time around, I don't think that happened to us. Maybe
Well, it
once.
did a little bit when we first got
It
there.
did because we were still trying to get our routine down and everything. But once we figured it out, like we didn't even have like the last probably the last half a week, because we hooked up some more panels. We didn't even have to run the generator at all, which is pretty cool.
Oh, that was good.
And another thing that helped too is Mike's been experimenting with these vacuum tube water heaters.
Yeah, vacuum tube solar water
solar
heaters.
water heaters.
Yeah. So before you start describing that, let me back up just a little bit. Okay. So since the question was, is it an endless water heater? Probably thinking of one of those kind that you hang on the wall that just comes on when the water is flowing through it.
Yeah.
But you actually have two. You've got two. Were they 50-gallon or 80-gallon?
80-gallon tanks.
80-gallon tanks, and one of them is and they're both actually water heaters, electric water heaters, right? But only one of them is actually heating water. The other one, do you have like a glycol mix in the other one to circulate through it, or explain that a little bit first?
The other one is ethylene glycol mix. It's a food grade. We use the more expensive glycol. It's like a food grade. So if the exchanger should ever crack and mix with our regular water, it won't accidentally make us sick.
Won't accidentally kill us.
It won't accidentally kill us.
More adventures of off grid, yeah.
Funny.
If you don't hear from us in a while, we're dead.
Oh, okay. Here's a question on
But
Lily.
the spring trip
So,
that when we came up in the spring, we brought with us two 80-gallon water heaters, and one's got the glycol, one's got our domestic water. And the glycol tank circulates through the solar water heater, and it preheats the water during the day when the sun's out. And then at night, before we need to get that water real hot for a shower or whatever, we just kick on the water heater and it doesn't take as long to heat up. So that was the purpose for that.
Those two waters, they don't mix together. It's through a small heat exchanger. So the glycol passes through one side of the heat exchanger, heats the domestic water, which is our safe drinking water. And that's how, but it preheats, but it only gets it to about 110. So we need the electric elements to bring it up the rest of the way. And we're still kind of playing around with that. And I've seen it go as high as like 134, but it needs to be consistent. So we're still messing around. I have a bunch of timers and temperature probes up there. I'm watching it. And when we come back, we'll add another string in there and fix the two broken tubes that I have. So, trying to eliminate ways that we don't need to run the electric elements. But I saw Robin was saying something about the Rinnai instant water heater, but that's gas.
Oh,
And I thought about that too, but I'm trying to avoid having a bunch of different fuels, because if the world should end, you can't just pop out and go buy some propane.
Yeah.
yeah.
So the sun's always going to shine unless the sky goes away, or so trying to get away from gas, because if you have then you have to have gasoline, propane, and diesel. That's like all of our toys up there are all diesel, so we can focus on just storing some diesel. Even the generator we have is diesel. So yeah, I that's why I didn't want to go with that Rinnai water heater, because that would have been another fuel that we would have to store there. And it just starts adding up. If you can have one source of fuel, okay, everything's diesel, then that's easy to do,
Yeah.
But
Speaking of which, I guess that fuel tank has been emptied that we went up to get the other day. So we'll organize getting that brought down here at some point.
I don't get to keep the diesel.
I guess he got it all out of there,
Yeah.
or maybe most of it anyway. I don't know.
I thought we were going to get a free half a tank of diesel out of that deal. That was looking better and better.
Yeah. Okay, so Lily was asking how big of a unit we would need to run a tree house like Martin's tree houses. Okay, so our tree houses are about, I think about 250 square feet to 300 square feet, something like that. And we're not trying to do off grid there, so it's like we're hooked up and the electricity just heats everything. So we've got 50-gallon water heaters in there, which is plenty big enough for all of the hot water needs that you would need in a cabin like that. And that's the same size as the one we've got here in our cabin. And we never run out of hot water here. But to do a solar plant that would be big enough to power that kind of a water heater, if you want it consistent, then you're kind of dealing with what they were talking about there with all of the kind of the inconsistencies of the sunlight and the power exchange, I guess, to be able to heat that water. So you might have to, depending on what you're wanting to do with it, if it's just you and Dave staying in it, then you probably can work around it. If you're going to actually rent it out and to guests to stay, you'd probably want to have some kind of a backup just to make sure that they always had hot water, because guests get kind of cranky about that, not having hot water, not having hot water when they expect it.
Yeah, if you were having a little place like that, you could do a solar plant and then, just use that Renai water heater. That's fine. You can use a small bottle and it'll last a long time.
That's true. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
We just didn't want to go that route because they didn't want to have an extra fuel source to maintain,
And that's another thing we run into on the boat, because it's such a small space. You can't have a huge water heater or like I suppose you could put one of those propane.
Well, that's a good point, because on the boat we have
a really small water heater.
It's 11 gallons.
Yeah. So
But
I think on the boat, our shower heads, they don't use a lot of water. They're one of those water saver, I think, shower heads.
There's a reason behind that small water heater.
Mm-hmm.
On boats, the temperature of the water in a water heater on a boat is 180 degrees.
It's like super heated. Yeah.
That's why it's because it's so small, you don't have a lot of hot water. So they make it really hot. So when you adjust your valve in the water for your shower, you only put just a tiny bit of hot and the rest of it's cold.
Yeah. And both of us can take a shower back to back and the water is still hot.
And it's only 11 gallons. So
and I take a hot shower too.
The steam rolls out the door.
Yeah. So it's still that we still have plenty of hot water.
If we had wallpaper, it would have fell off.
Yep. But another cool thing about the water heater on the boat is when the engine's running, it circulates the water, or no, it circulates the coolant, the antifreeze through the hot water. There's a coil in there, so that actually heats the water too. So if you had another way to heat water, I've seen people experiment with different things and run something through their domestic water.
Yeah,
kind of like
I've seen people run coils on the chimneys of those wood stoves.
Yeah, so
wrap the copper coil around there.
Yeah, so I think it's just a matter of figuring out other ways to heat the water and not just by using the electricity side of it.
Long story short, the biggest energy consumer is the water heater.
And really, when it comes down to it, anything that produces heat consumes a lot of energy and power, right?
Toaster ovens.
Yep.
Call it induction loads.
Yeah.
Yeah, anything that you put two wires together to make heat with is a big energy consumer.
Yeah. Yeah, and so what we've got here at our place, we ran in our cabin, we ran grid circuits and we ran off-grid circuits. And so if you look over my shoulder here, you'll see that white plug in there. And anything that's connected to our solar plant through the inverter has got a white cover plate with it. So the switches, the lights, the outlets, anything like that, if it's white, it means it's running off of our solar plant. Anything that you find in our cabin that's brown, which I don't even know where the closest, because we don't have that many of them in here.
Mm.
But those are dedicated to the grid. And we did have one occasion, you guys will remember this, when our inverter just died, and for no reason. And so we lost all of the white grid, or the off-grid circuits. We lost all of them, and it took a while. We actually ended up they never did replace that inverter. We actually got a different one. They gave us credit for it, but we got a better quality one. And so we were down actually for about 2 or 3 months without any of our battery systems working at all, because the inverter crashed. And so we've got a more reliable one now, but and haven't had any problems with it. But that's kind of part of the reason why we did a split thing. But when we set that up, I intentionally set the water heater. We've got a couple of baseboard heaters in here that we never use.
Yeah.
But just as an emergency, I wanted to be able to, if we were going to be gone for a long time during cold weather, I wanted to, and couldn't run the wood heat, I wanted to be able to to set those on so that they would keep the place warm and so things wouldn't freeze up. So we got that. And I guess we've got the only other thing that is dedicated to the grid is our laundry dryer. And that is, and for you off-grid purists out there, I mean, I get a hard way to go from people telling me that I'm not really off-grid, and true, I'm not, but we're mostly that way. And if we lost all of our power, which we have had a couple of times happen, we've been able to function just fine. We just couldn't do our laundry. We couldn't run the dryer, and eventually we might run out of hot water, but we've never ran out of hot water. And then the other thing was those little heaters. If that happens, I mean, we just stoke up our wood stove, so it's not a problem. So
hope that answers your question, Lily.
Yeah, that was a long way around to get to that, wasn't it?
So I don't know what size you would tell her. You said
I don't know that you'd really have to know what the application or what they were planning to do, I think, before you could really decide what the requirements of it would be.
I think that the smallest system, I wouldn't do anything less than 10 kilowatts.
Yeah.
Because anything less than that, what are you going to run? Some light bulbs?
Yeah.
Well, it depends on what they want in there. If they have a hot tub, they're going to need a lot of hot water.
If they're going to put a hot tub, they might as well forget about the off-grid thing, At that point.
Build you a wood-fired hot tub, I guess.
Oh, they make wood-fire hot tubs that you can.
There you go. You got a wood-fired hot tub.
Yeah.
Not a solar-powered hot tub.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if there's anything else. So tomorrow night, the whole reason for this tonight was a test to make sure that everything was working correctly the way we wanted it to. And but tomorrow night at 7:00, we're going to be doing a discussion specifically about solar, and you guys will be back again. So we're gonna kind of cover more nuts and bolts and technical stuff, aspects of solar. Probably also, a lot of people that approach me about the solar are thinking of the grid tied type of systems, which the power companies pay you money to get equipment or get energy from you. And that's not something that was interesting to us. Okay. And
explain why.
Well, we'll explain that tomorrow night, because that's going to be a longer explanation.
Tomorrow night, Mike might not be here tomorrow night.
Oh.
Then we might have to postpone it to another night. Is that right?
Unfortunately, I got to go to the Bahamas.
The Bahamas. Oh,
yeah. I got to go to work over there. I could try to set this up on my laptop over there.
I was going to say, if you got internet over there, you can set it up over there. And we can. I think I've got the capability of running 2 additional people on here. So yeah, we can make that happen.
Is this an app? We're using an app,
I think.
Yeah, but you don't need it though.
Okay.
You don't need the app.
Yeah. So, well, we could do it like that, and I can have 2 over here. I could have 1 more person over here. So we could have us and you on one and Adrian on the other if we wanted to do that. Or we could do it this way. Oh, wait a minute. That's not right. Okay, I'm gonna get in trouble, so I'm gonna quit.
I don't think the
Wait.
phone thing will work.
Wait, I think it will.
I tried it. Oh, is your mic working? We're trying something.
Okay.
Your screen.
All right. Well, sort of the live feed is over. We're gonna stay on here for a little bit and play with this and see if we can make it. Oh, there you are. Okay, just a minute. Just a minute. Now the only.
Turn the volume down. Whoa.
Okay, so we're gonna get feedback.
Turn this off.
Wait,
How do you get off?
why are we getting feedback?
That was way
Mike,
funnier than it should have
echoed.
been.
Well,
I think
well,
Back was cut. I thought it was turned
I
down
think
here.
I think it's the noise coming through your phone feeding back into the mic on your
That.
computer
Mhm.
or something like that. But so we know we can make that work. Okay, good enough.
All right, but let's just end the live, but keep this open so we can play around with that.
Okay, all right,
All
we'll
right.
do that. All right, well, thanks everybody.
Thank you.
We're gonna sign off here for now, and then remember tomorrow night, Tuesday night, 7:00, we're gonna have the discussion specifically on solar and the pros and cons of everything from start to finish on the solar, from our perspective anyway, in our opinions, whether that's worth anything.
Tag is Henri.
Yeah, and
We
to
have
deal with
some
him
Henri
later.
Henri questions on here.
I will just go ahead and duct tape him to a tree before the next one.
All right.
All right, KJ, thank you. Thanks for being there.
Yep.
We'll see you tomorrow night.
Bye.
Bye.
All right.